There we go. Go like this. Hello, 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 and fam, it is Wednesday, and that means it's time for another Live at 5 Anarchist Weapons Wednesday. This week, we've got another Democratic presidential hopeful who thinks only she should have guns, which I know is a bit of a shocker. Oh, did I say another singular? I meant there are two Dems in the running for the nomination who said really dumb things about guns this week. Don't want to forget Mr. Bad Touch Biden there. The Swiss say screw the EU gun treaty. The ATF says yo homes to Bel Air, and our high-flying Florida man of the week. Let us do this, shall we? All right, first up this week is Kamala. Guns are for protection for me and not the Harris, with some half-truths, sophistry, invented crap, and absolute idiocy, courtesy of Politico. Kamala Harris expanded her unilateral crackdown on guns. At a presidential campaign event Wednesday in New Hampshire, Harris pledged to take executive action banning the importation of AR-15-style assault weapons, a move that came just 3 weeks after the California Democrat rolled out her sweeping gun control proposal. Quote, when we look at the issue of assault weapons, let's be very clear. Assault weapons are designed to kill a lot of people in a very short time. Jesus, why do we keep going back to this? Harris said in Nashua. She added, we cannot any longer afford to allow people to make this a partisan issue. Those guns, those assault weapons do not discriminate and determine. Okay, is the person pointing it at a Democrat or a Republican? This can no longer be a partisan issue. Well, probably part of that is because it's usually aimed at a Republican because it's usually wielded by Democrats. But moving on, Harris, a former career prosecutor who appears intent on owning the gun issue in the crowded primary, said if Congress fails to pass stricter gun laws in her first 100 days as president, she would act on her own. Because Constitution, what's a Constitution? She floated executive orders requiring near universal background checks on gun sales, closing the so-called boyfriend loophole, which isn't a loophole at all and is actually a freaking felony, but whatever. Reversing the Trump administration's move to allow fugitives with outstanding arrest warrants, but no convictions, to buy guns, and repealing a law that prevents victims from holding gun makers and firearms dealers liable for their losses. Which is, let's be honest, completely fucking retarded, right? But anyway, Harris has faced significant competition since she unveiled her original plan. Last week, Cory Booker released a 14-part proposal, which you'll remember if you watched the last show. If you didn't, you guys should really go back and watch that last show. Calling for licensing all gun owners that the New Jersey Democrat supporters are touting as the most aggressive of any of the presidential candidates. Booker's gun licensing program would require, among other things, comprehensive FBI background check and proof of completion of a gun safety course. On Tuesday, Booker put out details of what he's calling a gun suicide prevention plan, which would prevent neither gun ownership by criminals, nor suicide, nor gun ownership by those who are suicidal. So it's effectively completely damn useless. Let me turn that light down here just a second. There we go. That works a little bit better, right? Maybe one more. There. How's that? That works. All right. So, moving on. Oh, where was I? Here. The perceived uptick in mass shootings has elevated the issue of gun control in the 2020 primary, assuaging long-held fears of many Democrats that taking a tougher stand against firearms could cost them votes in the general election. Booker and Harris have taken an early lead on the issue, with Booker promising to bring, quote, the fight to the NRA like it's never been seen before. Again, this is from last week. In fact, Booker's campaign added in a Monday news release, the National Review took the time to print 4 pieces and numerous tweets attacking Cory. Yeah, it's because he's a freaking power-hungry psychopath. It had nothing to do with because he's special. You people are absolutely insane. Let's see here. Yeah, while Booker is largely focused on gun control priorities that require congressional approval, Harris, seen here, Harris wants to ban, quote, AR-15 style assault weapon imports, end quote, and suspend all other, quote, assault weapon, end quote, imports until the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives can analyze whether they should be permanently banned under U.S. law. Her campaign argues the weapons could be banned because they aren't, quote, suitable for or readily adaptable to sporting purposes. This includes all 44 named AR-type models listed in the latest assault weapons ban that was introduced in Congress. Harris has said she also worked to make gun trafficking a federal crime, which it already is, ban high-capacity magazines, and bar those convicted of a federal hate crime from buying guns. Where do we even start with this? Just like with Cory Booker, oh my god, assault weapon is a damn stupid, meaningless load of bullshit, and at this point, using the phrase is pure sophistry. Assault rifle is a thing, a shoulder-fired weapon of an intermediate caliber that can fire semi or fully automatic, but Armalite rifles and the average modern sporting gun that people can get are not fully automatic. And studies, including one by Mark Gaius in the peer-reviewed journal Applied Economics Letters, his article from 5 freaking years ago, an examination of the effects of concealed weapons laws and assault weapons bans on state-level murder rates, found that such bans have exactly zero freaking effect on gun crime in any appreciable way. This is an argument we have to have over and over and over. But like Harris, and Harris, like her drunken mother's broken rhinestone cowboy vinyl, right? Just like that, we have to just keep hearing the same old crap again and again and again. The fact that proposed bans claims that the single most popular design of modern sporting rifle in the United States is not, quote, suitable for or readily adaptable to sporting purposes is obscene and blatant sophistry. It's a modern sporting gun. People deer hunt with it more than anything. It's the most popular firearm in the United freaking States. And you're going to tell me that there is no sporting use for that at all. Side note, there is an exemption for the partial steel core of M855 ball. Green tip, save the world, think green tip. And there's an exemption for that because it has real sporting purposes for longer range shooting in 5.56. So that round can get an exemption, but she wants to unexempt any ARs because they're scary as fuck, right? Because they look scary, that she says that, oh, they couldn't possibly have any kind of real, actual, usable sporting use, even though that's exactly what everyone uses them for. And on top of that, the 30-round mags are standard capacity, not high capacity. We went through this last week, and again, if you haven't seen last week's show, why aren't you watching me? Yeah, but you didn't think of that, did you? No, because you only think of yourself. But these same pieces of tyrannical scum want to make sayings like high capacity magazine and assault weapon a real thing, even though they're not, and no one considers them so. Because if they can do that, then they can try and convince you that, oh, this is this big scary thing that most people don't have and that, no one but the military needs. And it has nothing to do with anything military at all. I mean, on top of that, consider that she wants to ban those who are convicted of a federal hate crime from buying guns. And she's part of the same party that wants to make hurtful words a federal fucking hate crime. If this isn't fascism, I would like somebody to point me in the direction of what's actually fascist, because I just have no idea anymore. On top of that, the fact that she wants to ban the import of assault weapons is stupid. First of all, considering the fact that the majority of modern sporting guns get made in the United States, that get sold in the United States, almost in their entirety. And ignoring that, there's already a ban on importing, quote, assault-style weapons. That's why we have to import parts kits instead of actual guns. We already can't do that. But this is completely the fact, and she is unaware of the existing bans and the existing laws, is absolutely hysterical, but utterly demonstrative of just how ridiculous it is that they know so little about not only the guns themselves and their functioning and how they're used, but they know that little of the existing laws around them. I mean, case in point is that graphic that I shared on Facebook earlier with the 3D printed guns can be used, these 3D printed parts can be used to make guns semi-automatic, capable of firing multiple bullets a second. What? No! That isn't how this works. That isn't how any of this works. Now let's talk about Bad Touch Biden. As long as we're talking about people who know absolutely nothing about guns, let's talk about Bad Touch. Just get a shotgun and blast it into the air, Biden. Bad touch. Not bad touch Uncle Slinky. Bad touch Uncle Biden. Guy is freaking creepy, man. I mean, look at it. Just creepy. Don't tell me that that's okay. That's predatory behavior. That's what that is. But that's right, little boys and girls. Creepy Uncle Joe said Tuesday that he's open to a federal firearm licensing system and suggested fingerprint-locked guns as a way to combat gun violence. Sounds familiar. Some of us. I've never heard of that before. I think it's worth looking into. Biden told the Washington Examiner Tuesday at a campaign stop when asked his position on federal firearm licensing. That's right, licensing. He'd never heard of it before. I don't know whether or where that is in terms of under the Constitution, whether we're able to do that. My guess is we could. If this isn't already alarming, you're awful chill. I think there are a lot of things we could do directly now, said Biden. Gun licensing will not change whether or not people buy what weapons, what kind of weapons they buy, where they can use them, or how they store them, etc. I agree with that, but that does bring up a very important question. If that's the case, why the fuck do you want to mess with my rights then, Joe? If it's not going to change anything, what the hell are you doing? It's funny how the crazy guy winds up admitting to the things that all the rest of us already knew. The 2020 Democratic primary field frontrunner said that it is more important to figure out whether individuals are entitled? I could swear it's a Bill of Rights and not a Bill of Entitlements to have firearms. Bringing up universal background checks. For example, one of the things we worked on early on, and I worked on with folks out in Silicon Valley, we should be able to make a weapon that, in fact, you can only, if you can buy it, can only be fired with James Bond kind of stuff. If it has your print on it, you're the only one that can pull the trigger, Biden said. That's within our capacity to do that. I hate to break it to you, Joe, but no, it is fucking not. It is not within our capacity. You're an idiot. Obama advocated for similar smart gun technology in 2016, was completely shut down because none of the technology actually freaking works, and because, there is a minor hitch in that giddy-up that you may be familiar with, might have thought of, if it's based on fingerprints. Just think about it. Take all the time you need thinking about what might be a bypass. All the time. Other Democratic 2020 candidates, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, Democrat in New York, and former Texas Rep. Beto O'Rourke, also recently chimed in on federal gun licensing when asked about it at New Hampshire campaign stops in the last week. O'Rourke said that federal licenses, quote, may go too far, end quote, before changing his mind overnight, saying the next morning that we should, quote, explore the idea. Gillibrand told the Washington Examiner on Saturday that she does not support federal gun licenses, pointing to universal background checks and an assault weapons ban as a more effective way to combat gun violence. Again, despite the fact that every study ever done says that it doesn't work. Quote, this is not just about the gun owners. It's not even about the National Rifle Association, Biden said. 60% of the NRA agrees with what I was trying to do in the administration. They think there should be limitations. It's gun manufacturers. That's where the money in Biden concluded. Now, I'm not going to disagree with him. The NRA completely supported most of what he did in the administration. They support the bump stock ban that Trump put in place. They helped pen and endorse the National Firearms Act. They helped pen and endorse the GCA. They helped pen and endorse FOPA, which their hero Reagan signed into law. The NRA has done nothing but bend over backwards every time push has come to shove with your gun rights. Don't support the NRA. If you actually like guns, you will not support the NRA. You will support organizations like the Firearms Policy Coalition, the FPL, the Gun Owners of America, the National Association of Gun Rights. There are a lot of them out there that are not the NRA that do far, far more for your gun rights than the NRA ever has and ever will. Now, the image that I put up is from the 2007 Clive Owen film Shoot 'Em Up. Spoiler alert, fingerprint scanners don't help there either. And meanwhile, in the real world that Biden and most of his Silicon Valley LSD microdosing circle jerk buddies don't inhabit, this technology is still not really constitutional, still as technologically inviolable as Crazy Corey's microstamping dumbassery, and is stupidly dangerous to anyone who values their firearms liberty. What's to stop them from deactivating it? What happens if in an emergency you have gloves on? These things don't work. Either way, you know what? Up your stock now, kids, just in case. Boy Scouts motto, right? Right. Speaking of stupid ideas about guns, though, For me, not thee, and all that jazz. Well, remember that UN weapons treaty that Obama signed, that Congress refused to ratify, that now Trump has pulled us out of? Well, the EU's version of that is getting the same chilly reception in the land of chocolate, Nazi gold, fine watches, and really handy knives. That's right. Switzerland. Oh, yole-hee-hoo. In the land of Switzerland, 10 years ago, Swiss hairdresser Christine Duce, I don't know, I'm not all that great at German, feared guns. Then her daughter convinced her to join a 400-year-old local shooting club. Now she shoots twice a week. When I'm lying in the stall facing the target alone with my rifle, I don't know how to describe it, but it just helps me forget a bad day, said the 50-year-old. It helps me completely let go of the stress and negative things. I know what you mean, lady. I know what you mean. Duce and many of the 500 other participants at a marksmanship contest in Romans this month believe their heritage is under threat from tighter gun rules Swiss voters are expected to support in a binding referendum on Sunday. Even though Switzerland has one of the highest rates of gun ownership in Europe, polls suggest 2 out of 3 voters back controls of the European Union, embraced in 2017 after militant attacks in Paris and elsewhere. You know, the ones done with lots of already completely illegal guns, illegally imported, wielded by illegal immigrants. They're perpetrated with virtual impunity because no one else could legally own a gun to shoot back at them. Yeah, that one. That's why they want to go ahead and turn FUD. And make no mistake, the United States is not immune to FUDdery. Apparently, it's also present in Switzerland. The new European rules make it harder to buy semi-automatic rifles and easier to track weapons in databases. Non-EU member Switzerland's parliament and government back the regulations, but shooting enthusiasts fear a dangerous trend towards disarming them altogether. This should start to sound a little familiar. More is at stake than just guns. Switzerland must adopt the rules to remain part of Europe's Schengen open border system. If you've never heard of the Schengen zone, you want to talk about a one-world government move, trust me on that one. Proponents say failure to adopt the rules could also force Switzerland out of common rules for handling asylum requests, known as the Dublin system. They're trying to frighten people into accepting this law, and I find this absolutely ridiculous, Duce countered during a break in the shooting. Olivier Curdy, a 51-year-old accountant shooting since 12, also decried EU intrusiveness. This vote is just a step, and the next step will be full prohibition of weapons. This is what I can see coming, and even we shooters soon won't be able to keep our weapons at home, he said. The initial EU proposal provoked an outcry because it meant ending the Swiss tradition of veterans keeping their military rifles after their military service. Swiss officials negotiated concessions. Gun rights proponents complain the rules, including requirements to practice shooting regularly, encroach on Switzerland's national identity that include a very well-armed citizenry as a bulwark of their national security. In a nation with nearly 8.5 million inhabitants, gunfire killed just 13 people in 2018, down from 14 in 2017, police data shows. Government statistics show 229 people died from gunshot wounds in Switzerland in 2016, of which 212 were suicides. Isn't it interesting that Reuters will break this down for Switzerland, but they ignore that for the United States? Anyone else just find that kind of interesting? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. According to 2017 estimates by the Geneva-based Small Arms Survey, civilians in Switzerland own 2.3 million guns, or 27.6 firearms per 100 people. In the United States, by comparison, the population of 326.5 million owned 393.3 million guns, or 120.5 per 100 people. That's right, America has more guns than people. Sometimes I love this country. The 2,600 shooting clubs in Switzerland mean the sound of gunfire from ranges in nearly every village punctuates many weekends. Soldiers traveling with their assault weapons on trains and buses are a common sight. Assault rifles, people. Don't call them assault weapons. They're assault rifles. They're truly fully automatic weapons. Screw you guys. Shooting is fun. Shooting is a school for life. Shooting is for everyone, the National Shooting Association says on its website. It recommends children start from age 8 with air rifles or air pistols, graduating to small caliber arms at age 10, and army-grade weapons at age 15. Kinda sounds like my upbringing. How about you guys? Shooting contests date to the 14th century in Switzerland, and the image of folk hero William Tell with his crossbow, used to shoot an apple off his son's head as punishment for defying a Habsburg tyrant, is ubiquitous. The 5 yearly national marksmanship contest is Switzerland's top single sporting events. That's right, their shooting tournaments are the most popular sports in the entire country of Switzerland. The entire country. It's all about shooting. It's all about guns. And you notice no one ever invades them. Think there might be a reason? I suspect. Just maybe. There might be. Zurich comes to a halt when the Swiss financial capital holds its Nabenschießen boys sharpshooting festival every September. Despite the name, girls do take part too, winning in 3 of the past 7 years, actually. Guns have a special place for people like retired metalworker Arsene Plum. Mr. Plum. Mr. Plum. This is my Mac collection. There are many like them, but this one is mine. Yeah. I don't know if that's a Swiss accent, to be honest with you, but this dude is my hero. He's awesome. Look at that collection, man. Look at it. That is glorious. Absolutely glorious. But what he says, at age 72, his collection is more than 1,000 weapons. It includes multiple automatic weapons, submachine guns, and semi-automatic pistols that he needs special permits for, but is able to buy. There was not a single attack done with a legal weapon. Not a single one, he said, painting a dark picture of a future Switzerland that has disarmed private citizens. In 10, 15, 20 years, it will be over. The situation will be the same as in other European countries, which were totally disarmed, he warned. And this is a problem, because for time immemorial, Swiss citizens have been carrying around their guns. To the Swiss, especially Herr Plum, I would like to say, schon für dich, Bruder. Prost! Next time one of those spineless leftists, little piece of hoplophobic garbage, try to tell you that a love of guns is an American thing, remind them of this article. Just a thought. Oh, it's only America. It's only the Americans who like their guns. It's this whole obsession with firearms and the gun culture it's just an American thing. Really? Really? Because in Switzerland, their range days are their most popular sport. So I just want to point that one out. Oh, and now we move on to one of the most heartbreaking of the whole thing. They rolled up to the door to take their guns. They're not Germans. American cops are these tyrannical ones. I can't rap, but that was my attempt at the Fresh Prince. I apologize for being really, really excessively white at the moment. I do. I do apologize about that. Whoop. What did I do? There we go. From the New York Times. It reads like the plotline from an LA noir novel. A sprawling house in Bel Air, close to the Playboy Mansion. An early morning raid. Stacks of bullets and guns of every sort, and a tantalizing connection to a wealthy and famous family. In the early morning darkness on Wednesday, Los Angeles police detectives and federal agents working on an anonymous tip moved on the mansion in the affluent Bel Air neighborhood. Lo and behold, they found over 1,000 guns, all makes and models and calibers, said Lieutenant Chris Ramirez, a spokesman for the Los Angeles PD, who was at the scene on Wednesday after officers had spent hours cataloging the cache of weapons. There was seemingly every kind of gun, shotguns, pistols, assault rifles, even Civil War era weapons, along with over 1,000 rounds of ammunition, he said, as if that is horrifying. As if that's horrifying. Let me show you real quick here. So this is what we're talking about. I'm sure you've all seen these pictures of this massive, beautiful collection of a number of incredibly exquisite weapons. This was seized by the ATF. This whole thing here. And I just want to point out, as they're freaking out about the guns, take a look at some of these. Now, yeah, that's a Thompson there. You have a Mac. You have, oh, was that probably a Vepper? You got, another Thompson there and things. There's a revolver. But most of these on the right, those are .22 caliber target guns. They are single shot target guns. That is what these people are currently freaking out about. They were just laid out in various rooms in the house, he said. There were piles of ammunition on one side of a room. There were piles of guns on the other side of a room. One man was arrested, Gerard Sands, 57, who was booked at the county jail and released several hours later after posting a $50,000 bail. Mr. Sands, who the Los Angeles Times said possessed a license to buy and sell firearms, he is an FFL dealer, was arrested on suspicion of unlawfully transporting and selling assault rifles, Lieutenant Ramirez said. Lieutenant Ramirez said that agents with the bat fee were also investigating, and the federal charges would be forthcoming. Officers were running the serial numbers of all the weapons to help unlock the mystery, and I quote, to help unlock the mystery of why a man who lived in one of the country's richest enclaves had so many guns. It obviously happened in an affluent area, which is kind of rare, Lieutenant Ramirez said. Neighbors were kind of shocked. According to the LA Times, the home where the guns were found is owned by Cynthia Beck, a Los Angeles real estate investor who was once in an extramarital relationship with and had 3 daughters with Gordon Getty, the son of the late J. Paul Getty, an oil baron who was once one of the world's richest men and established the John Paul Getty Museum in Los Angeles. Ms. Beck was not in the home at the time of the raid, and it's unclear what her relationship is to Mr. Sands. I can pretty much guarantee you that if I had the kind of money this stockpile would take to collect, I would actually make this stockpile seem like a minor hobby. I mean, most gun people could do that. It's not that big a collection, but this isn't about anything actually immoral being done, is it? No, this is at most about a bunch of terrified, hoplophobic political types and their bludgy rabid dogs thinking this dude has a bit too much freedom for their liking. And really, 1,000 rounds is horrifying? That makes news? 1,000? That's less than needed for, literally one weekend at the range. This is tyrannically stupid, but this is the People's Republic of California. This is how they work. They have to try and make it seem like, well, nobody normal would ever own a bunch of weapons, because as soon as they admit that the average American citizen owns a gun, now all of a sudden they look like the crazy tyrannical people that they really freaking are. Why did a man in an affluent neighborhood have so many guns is the other thing that stood out to me. Well, because fuck you, it's none of your business, you prick. That's why. It's a Bill of Rights, not a Bill of Needs. He doesn't have to justify this to you. He's allowed to own as many freaking guns as he wants. Leave him alone. And your whole, he was illegally transporting assault rifles, even if he was moving automatic weapons across state lines without calling the bat fee first and letting them know where he was going and when he'd be back and his route and blah, 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 that you're supposed to do when you happen to have those kinds of licenses. Even if he didn't do that, who did he hurt except the bat fee? He wasn't handing them over to cartels like, I don't know, the United States government did. Good Lord. Although I do have to concede, his method of storing does leave a little something to be desired, as leaving them laying around does expose the weapons to temperature and humidity fluctuations and airborne debris that could probably damage them. So, I mean, I do get being, objecting to that. If you're gonna collect the guns, man, at least take care of them. I mean, seriously, you gotta maintain your weapons. Just saying. And now, I know this is your favorite moment, the thing that you've all been waiting for. It is time for Florida Man. Yes, it's time for our Florida Man of the Week. And this week, I love this headline. Florida man says he would rather go to jail than home to his wife as he gets caught driving on sunroof. A Florida man claiming he would rather go to jail than back home to his wife was arrested Friday after being caught driving on a highway while sitting on top of his sunroof. I have an image right here. You probably saw this video. I believe I can fly. Woo! I believe I can touch the sky. Alright, I apologize for that. I'm really terrible about that. Leonard Olson, 70, was detained after an off-duty deputy at Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office recorded the video that you saw, and reported him to the Florida Highway Patrol. The deputy said Olson was speeding more than 100 miles per hour down the highway and later slowed down to 40. The man then stood up and sat on his open sunroof while the car was still moving. After being stopped by troopers, Olson initially denied that he was traveling on a sunroof, saying he didn't know about that. I love his balls. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. That was me. No, what? On my sunroof? You crazy? Nah. But the man then told authorities that he actually wanted to turn himself in, according to the outlet citing law enforcement officials, because he didn't want to go back home to his wife. He says who he says does not treat him well. Please arrest me. You know, I have a feeling that the reason this guy is riding on his sunroof at 40 miles an hour down the interstate is because he's hoping that he'll crash and die. Because he doesn't want to have to go home. Olson told police that his, quote, wife treats me like a servant and she's the mistress. And that he's, quote, tired of this shit. End quote. The man added that he would rather, quote, go to jail than ever go back home. His wish was granted and Olson was arrested. After showing the video of him on the sunroof, he admitted his guilt and noted that the car was on cruise control, according to WTSP. The car drives itself and has a gigantic computer in it, Olson said. I thought it would be a nice way to praise God for a minute, and I thought it would be nice at the time, and that's what I did. Olson is facing a charge of reckless driving, a misdemeanor. I mean, hey, bro, more power to you. By the way, so this is the 70-year-old Olson upon his arrest. And I gotta say, man, more power to you, because to be perfectly honest with you, I mean, it's not a Tesla, so I don't know that I would, at least I don't think that's a Tesla. It looks like a Cadillac to me, like a CTS or a CTS-V. But, you know, maybe it's got the lane hold and stuff, and he was perfectly fine. And really, who did he hurt here? Poor guy. He just didn't want to go home to his wife, so he's like, screw it, you guys take me to jail. It's cool. It's cool. Because he's Florida man, right? We gotta love our Florida man. And Olson gets my Florida man of the week. So, that's all I got for this week, guys. If you thought this was cool and you enjoyed it, definitely, hit that like button down below. And if you didn't, well, no skin off my nose. Bite me. But anyway, so here's hoping that somebody enjoyed this. If you did, and you would like to see more, I am on every Wednesday. I am also going to be on Saturday and not Sunday, it sounds like, this week, on Anarchy Among Friends Roundtable Discussion, the podcast that I'm a regular on. If anybody would like me to guest star on any of their podcasts, please get a hold of me. I would be more than love to be on there to talk anarchism and especially guns. And as always, guys, it has been a pleasure. Stay safe, stay real, laugh to heal. You guys are awesome. Whoop. Out.